What is up, everybody? This is author M.B. Mooney, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Great stories change the world. I believe that. I believe that great stories change the world, not just normal, average, everyday stories, although those can be good too. I believe that great stories matter. Great stories change the world. But what makes a story great? I'm going to be talking about those kind of things on this channel. You know, when I was in the second grade, I was young, and I was rambunctious, and I was very mischievous, and I was bored a lot. Now, I don't know if that describes you when you were a kid, but I was just kind of bored a lot, and I got in trouble a lot at school. In fact, in the second grade, we had this thing where we took a spelling test on Thursday. And if you got 100 on the spelling test on Thursday, you didn't have to retake the test on a Friday. Now, I got 100 on the test on Thursday because I was a pretty good speller and I was a very avid reader. And I learned to read when I was very young. I was 4 years old. But then on Friday, when most of the class, if not the whole class, except for me, had to take the test over again, I was sitting there with nothing to do. So I was getting in trouble because that's what I did at that age, right? And my second grade teacher, Mrs. Green, did something genius. She looked at me on a Friday while she was getting ready to give the test to everybody else, and she said, "Britt, why don't you write me a story?" And I thought that was the best idea I'd ever heard. I mean, this idea that, hey, I could write the kind of stories that I love. I could write stories like Star Wars, and Star Trek, and The Hobbit, and Narnia, and all of these stories that I just loved as a kid. You mean I could write something like that? And so I started writing her some stories. And then I started getting 100 on purpose on Thursday just so I could write her a story on Friday. And she never took a grade for this. She never gave me extra credit or anything. I was just excited about telling stories. And I have been trying to write great stories ever since. I've been trying to live great stories ever since because I also believe that we have to live great stories too. Life is about a story. Our lives are stories. And so we should live a great story and we should tell great stories to each other, whether or not we write them down or we put them on a YouTube channel. No matter the format, we should learn what makes a great story and how do we tell great stories and why. And those are the kind of things I'm going to be talking about on this channel. I'm going to be talking about what makes a great story. Now, the main way I'm going to be doing that is I'm going to be doing some movie and TV show reviews, mostly streaming shows like Marvel and DC and some animation and movies. It's usually going to be, the PG-13 and under sort of Marvel and that sort of thing. Like, I love superheroes, I love fantasy, I love Star Wars, I love science fiction. So a lot of it's going to be in that sort of genre. And I might do some different things now and then just to kind of mix it up. I'm also going to be doing some old school suggestions because here's something that I have noticed is we have so much content now and it's so hard to find a way to get into what are some good things to watch. And especially for people who are younger, they may not know what some older movies are that are amazing. When I was younger, these old movies would just come on TV on Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, and sometimes they would stink and sometimes they were great. And sometimes my dad or my mom would sit me down and be like, "You got to watch this movie," right? And some of my favorite movies came from those times, Westerns and comedies and horror movies and just some old time stuff. But nowadays it's kind of harder to see that. And it's harder to find those sort of movies unless we as parents, right, we kind of pass that on. So I know I'm old, but I have a love for a lot of those old movies too. I like a lot of the new stuff and I like all sorts of movies. So I'm going to be giving some old school suggestions along the way. Just some recommendations for people that if you're just kind of sitting around what should we watch, maybe this is a great movie to kind of watch. And I'm going to be focusing my reviews on what are the themes. Is the writing good? What are the characters like? What sort of emotions are we feeling? Why does this story matter? And going to be giving some tips along the way as a writer on how to watch some of these and figure out what the themes and the messages are within each of these shows and movies and things like that. And the whole purpose is not just to watch critically, but also how do we tell these stories? And so that's kind of going to be the third thing that I'm going to be talking about is some writing tips. So at some point, I'm going to be doing some reviews for a while, but at some point, I'm going to be talking about some writing tips, some classes on writing, some little short inspirational things to help people to talk about writing and you tell your story. That's really what I want. I want you to tell your story and to kind of learn some of the craft and some of the tips that I've learned over the years to help you write and tell your story. So those are the things that I'm going to be doing on this channel. This is as an introduction to you. That's what this first video is about, just an intro. I'm going to be doing TV and movie reviews in like the science fiction, fantasy, superhero sort of genre. And I'm going to be doing some old school recommendations, right? Some old movies that maybe you've never heard of, or maybe you have and just don't know why maybe you should watch it, even though the effects might be old and the people might have mullets in them and stuff like that, right? And then I'm going to be doing some writing tips for people, for really kind of for young people, but really for anybody, to kind of talk about how do we tell great stories, okay? So this has been author MB Mooney, and I hope you enjoyed this first video. Check it out. Subscribe, like, share it. Get it out there, man. This is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to your comments. I want to hear what you think about some of these shows, what you think about some of my writing tips, and I want to see how you tell your story. All right? Peace out.